Right, so I went there to prepare for this meeting, and so it's not there. Is there a way to, I mean, this is how we usually do it over on the town side. They're posted in advance, and, but.
Yeah, we
so
normally do. I'm not sure why that didn't work, but I can check it and put it up there right now.
Yeah, going forward, we normally do that, so we'll double check it before next month.
Okay, and you know what, we could have, let me just say, we could have the town post a link to your website where your packets are.
That's probably a great idea too.
Yeah, because I mean, that's what most people do. You go look at your agenda. Oh, you're going to review this. Let me start. Well, if you have time, start looking at things.
Oh, perfect.
Ready?
Yeah.
Being 7:30, I shall call the meeting of the Reading Municipal Light Department Board of Commissioners to order. This meeting of the Reading Municipal Light Department Board of Commissioners is being recorded at RMLD's office, 230 Ash Street, Reading, Mass. For distribution to the community television stations in Reading, North Reading, Bloomington, and Linfield, as well as live streamed on RCTV and YouTube. The RMLD Board of Commissioners recognizes the importance of hearing public comment at the discretion of the chair on items on the official agenda. Once recognized by the chair, all persons addressing the board shall state their name and address prior to speaking. It is the role of the chair to maintain order in all public comment or ensuing discussion. Are there any people available for public comment? Okay. And Vice Chair Pacino will serve as the board secretary for this evening's meeting. Welcome Vivek Soni from the CAB. Do you have any comments you would like to make?
Just that our next meeting is going to be next week. So it's going to be on the 23rd. And just want to, so really we don't have anything.
Okay.
Since because we have, our last meeting was together.
Yeah.
And liaisons, Karen Herrick from Select Board. Do you have any comments, Karen?
No, I'm excited. I'm testing out Teams. It's congratulations on getting the system working. I would say like it's not large enough for me to see what your presentation looks like, but the camera looks good. I can see you. Congratulations.
We're testing out new technology.
Yeah, that's great.
And no one from FinCom tonight, and so we're gonna move on to approve the meeting minutes.
Yeah. First, I want Erica, it's kind of a different format, so Erica, you want to go over what changed? The minutes are in a little bit different format than you normally see them.
Okay, so I did some research on what other MOPs are doing for their minutes, just to make things, easier for people who want to look at them, etc. So the major changes that we have for these ones is instead of putting the acronyms within the minutes, I just listed them right up front so people know what things are. And then a link to the materials and packets for that meeting. So for example, all materials can be found on the website. So this will link to the agenda and packet for the September meeting. And then as we go through each presentation, it will be linked to that presentation within the document. So it will look like one PDF. And for example, 2022 NEPA conference report on the screen here, where it says click here to view the 2022 presentation. It's going to link you within the PDF and it will jump right to that presentation. So you're not leaving the document, you're just able to reference things quickly and easily. And we can definitely tweak this as we go, but just a little change to start.
Okay, I'm ready to make a motion, Madam Chair. Okay. Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners approve the open session meeting minutes of September 15th, 2022. We got the word meeting in there a second time, so we'll take it out. On the recommendation of the general manager and the board secretary.
We have a second?
Second.
David? And we're gonna vote in order to.
Yeah, Mr. Pacino, aye?
Mr. Talbot, aye.
Ms. Golder, aye?
Marlena Beta, aye. And Mr. Stembeck is absent. Flag Jabari,
Yes.
director of
Make a
engineering
motion,
records.
yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Move that bid 2023-02 for hourly rates for professional manpower vehicles, trade tools, and equipment for underground electrical distribution, construction, and maintenance be awarded to power line contractors pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30, Section 39M, as the lowest responsible and lowest bidder, an estimated 3-year total of $372,050 on the recommendation of the town manager.
Yes, this time it bid for 15 companies and only 2 responded. So what we did, this bid award was based on hourly rates for an estimated 350 hours of straight time and 50 hours of overtime per year. And these hours are just for bid purposes only, so it's not representing the true hours that they're going to be working. So because this is chapter 3039M, we have to award it to the lowest responsible and responsive bidder. So the lowest bidder was PLN Power Line Contractors, which basically they didn't take any exceptions. And even the lowest bidder by $5,000, $5,275, it's $5,000. So that's what our recommendation is. And just to give you historical data for past 3 years, we paid an average of $5,877 annually to the contractor, which is departing now, which is McDonald Electric. As of next month, they're going to start, the new contract is going to start at this rate, the new rate. So that's it. Any questions?
Yeah, I just have one comment. Usually I thought we talked about actually putting in what the budgeted number is in this. And I don't see it here. Usually we put in, we budget X amount.
Mhm.
And I don't see it here. What the write-up.
Yes.
So I mean, at this point, I don't have any problem with it. I think maybe future, you
Sure, we
put
can.
the budget amount.
Yes.
Have a separate line
Yeah,
for
that
the
makes
budget amount.
perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yes, you are absolutely right. We do that.
And can we get a second on the motion before? Think about it.
Just another question.
Dave second.
How long was McDonald a contractor previously? Was it a 3-year term or?
3-year term, yes.
So
This is also 3-year.
okay, and so they only held it for 3 years,
Yeah.
and now you have another
Contract.
contractor.
Every 3 years, we go out to bid. There are 15 companies, 15, 17 companies. We invite them all, we send it out.
Yeah.
Depending on how busy they are or what they can do.
Is there any appetite to extend the contract to a 5-year contract? Just, only reason I'm saying that.
I think the limit on that one, I believe, but I can check and get back to you on that. I believe it's only 3 years is the max.
In terms of the,
In terms of the.
we're gonna check the,
Yeah.
but I think you're right, your concept is.
Yeah.
Well, it was continuity, right?
Yeah,
I will
exactly
tell you, a
right.
3-year contract is
Quick,
it's quick. And so it's a very quick contract, but as soon as you develop continuity
Right.
with foreman and crew.
Then they have to depart.
It's the part, and
That's-
it's very, very difficult. And
Yeah,
you know that
Regroup.
engineering, design, transitioning, your guys, their guys. So if we get along a contract,
It would be
possible.
better. I'm gonna check on that.
Okay.
And get back.
Yeah, we'll do an action.
Definitely. That's an action item. Generally, for the other bids, that's what we're trying to do, and that's what we, for the switches, and half mode switches, SCADA mates, interrupters, and all of the cap rings, and everything else. And the labor, I'm checking.
Any other discussion, Bob?
Second.
Sure. Did you, I was confused.
No.
You seconded the other,
I seconded the minutes.
right, that's it.
Okay, so Bob seconded the bid, Dave seconded the minutes.
Are you ready?
And Mr. CNY?
Total direct.
Ron Livia.
Thank you.
Oh, policy 11, code of conduct, presented by Greg Phipps.
Okay, we make the motion. Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners approve policy 11, code of conduct revision 0, as presented on the recommendation of the general manager.
Clear the contract.
Got a second?
Nick Sarland.
Oh, sorry.
Got a second?
Second,
Great. Originally, this was called the Code of Conduct. We spent some time looking at how other companies do this, Code of Ethics, Code of Conducts. Some people have 20 or 30-page books and presentations. The intention for us was to simplify it so that our team, the members of the RMLD team, would actually read it and, more importantly, apply it. The emphasis, as you probably noticed, was on serving, right? You know, we are a public utility. We're here to serve our ratepayers. That's why we've actually changed the title to Serving with Excellence. There are a couple of key themes that we have in here. You'll see we spent a lot of time trying to work on the words, etc. As you guys know, that if you want to make something shorter and more crisp, it takes more effort. I would have written you a shorter letter if I had more time. You've heard that expression. But the key things in here are safety, teamwork, personal responsibility, serving as we talked about it, and also, you know, contributing, right? We talked in here about bring your A game, best attitude, best abilities, etc. So there's a lot of pieces in here. The intention was to keep it short and sweet, to basically set an expectation, not be prescriptive in terms of step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and also to, you know, we took out the if you don't do this, here's the consequences. We're trying to set I don't say set a standard, but set a set of expectations and keep it short and sweet so that people will actually remember it and look at it. Tonight, any input tonight would be good, but I think the expectation that Madam Chair and I had talked about before is to kind of give you guys a little background on it, the intention behind it, on my request, and then if you guys have a chance to take a look at it over the course of before our next meeting, any inputs, just send it back. You're going to bring it to the next meeting, but ideally, if you could just email back me directly, not to the group, but me directly, or call me, or meet with me. You guys, so it's easy for us to communicate. That would be very helpful. What I would ask you to do is focus primarily on tone and content from the perspective of, are there things either missing or things that you don't think we should be in there? What I'm not really asking for, I'll take input, but I'm not asking for wordsmithing. I'm asking for big picture pieces. Because as you guys know, when you start making something so tight, we've played around with a lot of words and a lot of different words. So that's the request that I have to you guys as the commissioners, and that's the sequence and schedule. Any initial reactions or initial comments or initial thoughts on the Serving with Excellence policy number 11? Please.
Unenforceable policy.
Unenforceable.
So it's an you're asking someone how.
Yeah.
Right. I mean that's what it is. It's more of a I would almost say a mission statement than a policy. And that's that's my initial reaction to it. Right.
Yeah.
Because I know it I like the idea.
Yeah.
But I wrapped up into a policy that's.
So maybe we call it something different.
Something different, right? I just see it as, and I went back. I went looking for policy 11. And I noticed there isn't a policy. So I good spot. I said, oh, okay, but I just thought something. It's something different. I like the idea of it, and I like to want people to contribute. You want to be a team player, but I just think as
yeah.
I'm fitting it in, but I just don't know where. That's my.
I think we talked about this, and so it's really a code of conduct pledge.
Yeah.
Not enforceable. It's just to have the conversation up front and remind employees occasionally, remember this is what we agreed to when we started, and.
Yeah. That's what we're striving for.
Revisit it.
Yeah.
That's all.
This is our expectations in terms of being a member of the team. And it is radically different. I mean, it looks nothing like any of the other policies, obviously. Right?
No, I you know, what then, you know, is it, what is it, you know, is it, do you put it into a code of conduct? Or do you, but again, it's very difficult.
Well, code, yeah, and so we're actually gonna go back and look at, you know, when we're talking about policies, because we have almost 3 dozen policies.
Yes.
And that's, we're gonna streamline that as well.
Yeah.
This is kind of the first attempt,
Yeah.
but I think, so take a look at the content between now and then. This feedback's good, but I think what you're suggesting is maybe it doesn't belong in the policy category. So take a look at this. maybe it's a different plan. I won't call it a mission statement because it's not.
I just first.
But no, but that's,
Yeah.
but I think the feedback, Bob, is good in terms of, it might have a different place. And I'll take a look at that in terms of what else we could place. We were focusing more on the content itself. And I mean, this has been through not dozens of drafts, but first cut was 3 pages long.
Yeah.
Do this, don't do that. And it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Just,
So we're not gonna vote tonight then?
no, the intention is not to vote. The intention is that it's just initial feedback, initial tone,
Sure.
Comments.
Madam Chair, I will, if the secretary will agree, I'll withdraw the motion.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry, that was, that's good. Yeah, we were
Yeah.
supposed to.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Good. And then again, just please, any other feedback,
Sure.
warmly welcome.
So moving right along to an approval for the Director of Energy New England
Yes.
consideration that Greg Phipps will describe.
Great, so, so obviously we as RMLD, as an equity holder, we have a seat on the board of directors at E&E. You guys have asked me as general manager to hold that seat, we do that, but we also have 3, so E&E has 3 external directors and they serve a 3-year term. And so one of the original founding members of the E&E board of directors has retired as of last December. And so the recommendation is to, we the support, but the recommendation of E&E is to put Paul Hillard to be the one of the 3 external individuals. You guys probably don't remember because we didn't have him present, but 2 years ago, when we were walking through all of the Policy 30 discussions, he had done some work for us, some background educational work that ended up in slides, et cetera. He didn't do an actual presentation like the other group had done. Anyway, so he's very experienced. He does a tremendous amount of work for the state. He does a tremendous amount of work for Iceland, New England. So he is deeply experienced in terms of power, energy from a public perspective. He would be a great addition to the EA board member. So anyways, you guys had a chance, I won't walk through his bio, but the bio was in there. It shouldn't have the package, right? The bio was in the package. Yeah, good, okay, great. So yeah, he runs the analysis as well. But he's.
Sorry, not in the package.
Oh, we didn't email it. Oh, okay.
But we have it.
I'll just read the first page. I mean, so he basically founded the analysis group, right? He was chairman of the Massachusetts DPU for a period of time. He, again, I think his expertise is in modeling, economics, public policy relative to energy. I mean, he's a very talented individual. He actually, at the Portland at the Portland NEPA annual meeting, he did a presentation on carbon credits. So again, he's known in the industry very well. I'm sorry that this package didn't get in front of you guys. Probably what's the other, scroll down a little bit in terms of the other key things. Yeah, well, the CV is 27 pages. So yeah, it's a long CV. It's a CV, right, as opposed to a resume. He's got a master's in energy and resources from University of California, Berkeley. He's got a BS in physics from the University of Massachusetts, Amherst. I mean, I would love to have him on board, seriously, on the board of directors. So he's a very thoughtful individual that does the hard work of the modeling. He's got a really good team that works with him. Obviously, from a E&E board of directors position, he would just be him, but he knows the space intimately well, and I think he'd be very helpful for us as equity holders of E&E. So my apologies, I didn't get a more detailed package, but.
Have the other municipalities voted?
I think they're all in different, I think they are, so I don't know. I know they're all trying to get that done this month so that we can March can officially bring them on board, but each of the, Concord and Wellesley and Hingham and Braintree and Taunton, those are all, and us, we're the equity holders. So I'm expecting all of them to support. I would be surprised if nobody So I don't know for a fact, but he's top notch. We'll be lucky to have him.
Yeah, just a question.
Yeah.
Who is he replacing?
Um,
Because I'm looking at the board directors and they still show Colleen on the board there. So I'm just curious, who is he replacing?
do you have the other, so who are the other names you have on there?
So I guess it's not, yeah, it'll be, is it Raymond Celebi,
No,
Christian Scorsese?
no, Christian's an external guy.
Thomas Whitney?
Yeah, Whitney, Tom Whitney.
Okay, Thomas.
Tom Whitney.
Okay.
Yeah, he goes back to the beginning of the NE. Tom was actually a day bank executive way back.
Yeah.
then. And it was very influential in terms of energy. He's not an energy guy. Specifically, he's a finance guy. Tom, he's retired from everything at this point. This was the last thing that he enjoyed doing. Paul.
Ben's recommendation, or John's, sorry, recommendation.
Yeah, so, time out of Tom. So, basically, Paul's done work for Wellesley. He's done work for MEAM over the past several years. Several studies for Iceland, New England, which I already mentioned, and the other regional RTOs. He's been involved in E&E strategy planning at different projects over the past several years. I mean, literally, this guy is expert in our area. I think he's very talented. And he's done work for us too, at RMLD.
Yeah, just one question. The process is we as the board have to recommend that we elect this guy, or is that the correct term, or we recommend he be accepted, or what?
Yeah, basically you need to approve RMLD's vote to have him be part of the board. So you guys, as opposed to the general, I represent RMLD, but in this case, the way the structure at E&E is, you as the commissioners need to confirm board of directors, the external board of directors. Well, for that matter, you also confirm.
You go and vote on the final to let him in, or what?
Yeah, I'll end up voting on behalf of you. Well, with your approval, of course.
You write the motion.
Okay.
Okay, so let me just change the motion. Move that the RMLD Board of Directors, we take out the word hereby, direct the general manager to vote to elect Paul. I'm going to change it to.
That's fine.
Okay? So let me read the whole motion. You got it, Erica? We good?
Yeah, if you want to read
Okay.
it, I got it.
Move the Board of Directors, direct the general manager to vote to elect Paul Hibbert as director of the New England Energy New England Board to serve in its capacity for a term as defined in section 3.2 of the Energy New England operating agreement.
Second. Is there any further discussion?
Mr.
Okay.
Pacino?
Done, right?
Mr. Ray?
Marlene, good night. IRD.
Great. So I'm going to present these few notes for the IRD report tonight. But I'm going to do that first by introducing Bill. Bill is the new director as of Monday, so he's joining our team. He is the new director of IRD. We are excited to have him on board. We'll do a release tomorrow, but he brings over 25 years of experience in energy space. He most recently was at MWIC. At MWIC, he had the opportunity to lead the development of a Nexus Zero program, which is focused on energy efficiency and decarbonization, so things that are directly up our alley. He also led a project for grid scale batteries, 80 megawatts across a handful of other MLPs. So he's done quite a bit of work in his tenure at MWIC. Before that, he was at Eversource, again, energy efficiency programs. Going further back, he has actually led small companies, so he's got a lot of leadership experience as well. we are excited to have him, and I personally am excited to have him on board the team. So I'm gonna pass the baton to him after we go through this. So I think the next IRD report, which will be not next month, but the month after, you'll hear some of the things that we'll be talking about. Actually shouldn't say that. We've got a few things that we'll need to talk about next month. So Bill will be leading that discussion next month. So first order of business was just to introduce Bill. So welcome aboard, Bill.
Thank you.
So there are a couple of quick topics. So hedging. So as you guys know, from our discussions on rates, et cetera, our power supply portfolio is in good shape. But it requires constant care and feeding. I say this with passion. You guys know that. We think there's an opportunity right now, given the external marketplace. Again, this is our energy market in New England is affected by global events. And we've talked about several of them. That chart on the left is what is known as around the clock pricing. That's open market pricing. On the left-hand side, I know it's very small print, but it basically is early on the left-hand side is January of 2022, before any global events in Europe. And then the far right-hand side is the first week of February of 2023. So as you can see, and each one of those colored lines are different years. The highest one was 2023, and then the red 2024, et cetera. Normally they go the other way around, but the external markets push the near-term prices up. In the middle of 2022, the open market opportunities that we would normally pursue were extremely expensive. You can see how high they were in the chart relative to the left-hand side or the right-hand side. And given that the right-hand side is back down to a more normal level, we're aggressively looking at bringing our hedge position from 85% up to 90%. So you can see on that far right-hand column, 23 is 85, 24 is 85, a couple percentage points, but roughly 85. 25, 26, 27, 82 down to 80. Still good position to be in, but we're looking at it. We think it's going to be prudent. So I'm not asking for any decisions right now. And if we were to do something, we would probably do it under the TFA. As you guys know, we haven't done any TFA transactions in over 18 months. The numbers which have just been too high, but they're back down. So we're running some analysis. There is a high probability that we will look at moving the hedge position up closer to 90%, maybe in the month of March. So just kind of a heads up. There's a lot of reasons of why the forward price curve is down versus 2022 or mid 2022. We've talked about most of them. The general consensus, and we do a lot of our own research, but we get a lot of input from the open market position as well as E&E. The perception is we're not quite at the bottom of where the market might be, and nobody knows for sure, but we're closer to the bottom than we are to any peaks, and that's certainly true over the past. So that's what we're looking at doing. So that's kind of an update for you guys. Any questions on power supply, hedging? No major changes right now, but just we think there's an opportunity here to take some risk off the table. Thoughts, reactions?
Okay.
Is it nat gas prices basically being low that's really driving?
Yeah, natural gas. So natural gas is the key driver right now, and not just natural. So as we talked about before, our natural gas prices are influenced by what happens in Europe, directly and indirectly. We are gas constrained, but yeah, we're down in the gas prices right now are sub $3 a million BTU. And if you remember, last summer they were in the $9, and they're expected to stay pretty anyhow, the $7 range per million BTU. That directly impacts the open market.
Yeah, I get gas from National Grid, so I know.
Well, the good news is
that they were going to go down.
They're gonna go down.
They were this close to actually redoing the rates, and the state was the one that said no.
No, wow.
Yeah. So
that's fascinating.
They said just ride it up right now, and then when the time is appropriate. Yeah.
Which will be, 4 months from now.
That's correct.
4 or 5 months from now.
They just said that that's the better time to do it, because just in case something happens, then it's just too.
It's still, while it's February, it is still winter, and, in New England, anything can happen, so it's probably prudent advice.
Yeah.
It looks like Karen might have a comment.
Hey, Karen, yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to, since I'm a little remote, I just wanted to be clear. Bob, you were speaking about, because I have been watching gas prices come down. So were you saying that National Grid is going to hold off reducing rates and just make sure they're down permanently, and you're going to, Greg, you'll follow along accordingly? Is that what we're saying?
Well, there's two different points.
Two different,
Yeah,
two different things.
So go ahead, Bob, just repeat your point and then I'll repeat my
So,
point.
so there was, I know there was discussion with National Grid, with the state to be proactive and change rates.
For gas or electric or both?
Well, change rate because the energy costs had gone down.
Yeah.
But the decision was that is not going to occur. There was discussion about it because as we had discussion about rates and energy costs, and they were extremely high, and then they started to go down, the same discussions occur across the industry.
Exactly.
But there was no change of going to occur.
Now, Karen, the comment that I was making relative to the RMLD portfolio is, given that the external context of natural gas prices, which affect electricity prices, are lower right now, and they're expected, there's a slight downward trend over the next month and a half or so, while we're still in the winter months. We are looking actively to see if we will move our open position, which currently is about 85%, up to 90%. And the reason to do that is as we go further out, the expectation, particularly after 2025, is that there'll be increasing upward pressure on energy prices. So the opportunity here is maybe to lock in a larger piece of our portfolio, not for 20 years out, but for somewhere between 3 and 4 years, move our 80 to 85% up to 90%. That's the analysis that we're doing.
Okay.
And it is, I won't call it opportunistic, but it's, you got to watch the market carefully, and we're at a dip. It looks like we're at a dip in the prices over the next month and a half or so. And again, nobody can predict exactly, but that's what it looks like. So the point being is that we are actively, like we're always actively, but we're looking to pull a trigger potentially here in the next 6 weeks or so.
Okay, thank you for that. That makes a lot of sense. And I know you do have the luxury of contracting for longer terms than National Grid. So, but I was just already thinking about the ratepayers, because we did do a survey on the town side, and folks are struggling from inflation, and specifically mentioned electric rates. So what I was just wondering if we could look forward to, steel prices are down to 220 prices, and now I'm seeing gas prices are down to sometime in 2021, which is awesome. So at some point, could the ratepayers also expect to see a bit of a rollback in those recent increases?
Well, I'd say this, Karen. So on the power supply part of our bill, it is passed through. And so what we actually incur, again, where 85% of it is contracted and known and the other 15% is open. The good news, that 15% open, there is a continual downward pressure on that. And all those downward pressures pass directly to the ratepayers. So while we will implement the rate increase that we had approved back in January, it'll probably be even lower than we had forecasted back in January. It won't be 0, but it might be 7%. Like, we have to finalize the numbers. I mean, when I say finalize the numbers, we do adjustments to energy and NIPA, which is a credit, as well as PPCT, which is capacity and transmission. So we do that each month. We'll run those analysis again next week in preparation for the March bills. But I'm expecting that the March bill will be lower than we had even thought back in January, to reflect the fact that the wholesale part of our portfolio is going down. So net, yeah, it'll be less expensive than even we had anticipated, which is good news.
Yeah, it's great news. Okay, thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it.
Yep, very good. All right, the other topic, is, 2 years ago, we had talked about Palmer. Palmer was a generation plant that was in the works to be commissioned originally by the end of March 2022. There was an extension to March 31st of 2023. That's right around the corner. There are a variety of MLPs that were part of that contract. Our intention, just to so our understanding right now is no construction's been done on that property, but just to make sure that we cross all the T's and dot all the I's, we will issue a formal termination letter for the contract, in the window that is prescribed in the contract. So we are highly attentive. All said and done, we've made other provisions for power in lieu of that. So it's kind of a non-entity for us, but we're gonna make sure we check the final boxes on Palmer. So that's good, so everybody knows.
I was at a wood chip facility the other day.
Yes.
Just to let you know.
Just to let you know,
Looking
yeah.
for biofuel.
Yeah.
Talking biofuel. So,
Yep.
it's still there. Was there any final cost associated with the termination of the contract?
Not for us.
Okay.
No, there won't be any additional fees for us to terminate the contract. All right, now we're talking about rates. So what we're doing in RMLD right now in this context, we've talked about time of use rates going forward. Part of the prerequisite is to increase the amount of time of use meters that we have. We're in the process of, the RFP has been issued for the MDM system, which is the software piece to analyze the data. We can use that with our existing AMI systems. And then we're finishing up the specifications for the AMI system that we'll send out in several weeks as well. I'm laying out these two. One is the EV1 rate we've talked about before, but the other one is the coincidence of the slide 4, the coincident industrial peak rate. We've talked about this a little bit, but I wanted to put a little bit more detail behind it because we're really trying to fine tune it. But I wanted to give you guys an idea of what it looks like. I think over the past couple of years, it's been helpful to give you guys an idea of what we're trying to do and what you're thinking about. So when it gets time to put stuff in place, it's not like, hey, here it is, you got 2 seconds to think about it. So this is a little bit of background for you right now. As you guys know, our capacity and transmission costs are driven by either monthly peaks in the case of transmission or annual peaks in the case of capacity. And the rates are set external to us for transmission and capacity. But the way we can control how much we pay is what our load is during those peaks, during the monthly peaks and for transmission and during the annual peaks for capacity. So what we've had in place is a shred the peak program. We also have our battery system in place. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, in a little more detail with our battery. And we also have our 2.5 megawatt gen system that's been in place since 2017. So all of those factors, the intention behind all of those is to reduce our load during that peak hour. So the Shred the Peak program has not had a lot of, over the past couple of years, a lot of participation, especially by the industrials. As you guys remember, the industrials represent a pretty significant part of our load in terms of megawatts as opposed to megawatt hours. So we want to figure out a way to get them more engaged and more involved. One of the things is currently what we do with our I rate, the industrial rate, is we charge them a demand charge based on their maximum peak. And what we are suggesting, what we're looking at doing is have their demand charge be tied to our peak, our monthly peak or our annual capacity peak. So we're trying to have our customers align with us at our direct cost. There was a reason historically why it was their peak, and it was intended to basically cover whatever their maximum peak was over the course of the month. It was intended basically to cover the cost of our distribution system. But over many years, several decades, the power supply cost, as you guys know, is now the biggest part of our cost structure, not the distribution network. So what we're trying to do basically is realign. And that chart that I have on the right there, the idea right now in that orange line, these are an example. It's real data, but it's an example. So in that particular case, across the bottom, basically is midnight on the left-hand side, noon in the middle, and then midnight on the right-hand side. So that's a 24-hour load curve. On the left-hand side is demand in terms of kilowatts in this case, but megawatts, kilowatts, but it's a demand snapshot. But you can see in that orange, it says demand peak for the I rate. There's a little peak right underneath the word coincident. And so that's what that little snapshot is, what we would charge them. We'd basically take that peak and then multiply it by a demand charge, and that would be their rate that would be their cost for the month. And if you look at that blue line, again, the blue line's gonna be much higher, but just so they're superimposed, again, for this example. But the RMLD peak is to the right-hand side there, you're right underneath the word RMLD, that would be the RMLD peak. And so the thought process would be to have the demand charge for the larger industrials, probably the top 15, maybe 30, we have to run some more analysis on that. But basically to charge them the demand, which is that where you see the coincident peak on the right-hand side, I should have brought my pointer in, but anyways, you guys can see on the right-hand side, underneath RMLD, there's that vertical line between the gray line and the orange line. If we are successful with the program and other, well, at least one other MLP has been successful with this concept, we're gonna take the lessons that they learned. But if they, basically, we have them drop their load during the same peak hours as us, then it directly aligns to helping us redo our capacity peak and our transmission peak. It basically aligns us. Now, there's a lot of things we need to do to make that happen, but the key thing is direct feedback to the customer. Like they'll see in the following month, well, second month bill, but they'll see within 2 months, possibly 3, depending upon what month it is. And it was within 2 and 3 months, they'll directly see what they did prior, as opposed to wait for us to run some unusual calculations 12 months later. Oh, cool, very good, thank you. So there's a more direct relationship. If they don't do anything, there's no penalty, but we're trying to create incentive for them to take action. Now, there's other things that we'll do. All of them, we put in place, I think, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, but no, actually 2015.
2015.
Yeah, Tangent Amp is a platform. So most of these customers have a portal that gives them the peaks, et cetera. They don't use it very much right now. There's a bit of work for us to do to educate them to do it. There's no net loss for us, but there's a benefit if they actually participate at the right time. So there's more detail. We're going to do a more formal presentation to you guys in April. But this is that coincident peak for the industrials that we've been talking about. I want to give you ideas of what that really meant and what we're trying to do. So that's coming. So that's any questions on the coincident peak? And we're going to start with industrials first, and then maybe we'll eventually go to all time of use, so it'll apply to everybody.
Do you need them to buy in? I'm looking at the chart, and they would already tell you, why do I even need to participate, because I'm at the tail end. I'm going down where you're going up. What's my incentive to tie in to this program and help a residential rate? And it'd be the first.
No, it's not residential.
Well,
yeah.
the peak, right?
Yeah.
So that's the residential rate.
Yeah.
I spoke there. But that peak, you're just gonna look at it, you're like, I'm already tailing up. Why is my concern about that?
Because it'll directly affect their next month's bill. Like so they're paying a demand charge already. So you guys, a good chunk of their bill, about 35, I have to look at each one individually, the rates we did before, but roughly 35% of their bill is a demand charge. Right? And if they can drop a megawatt, for example, that number, depending on each one, but it could be significant dollars, 10, 12, 13% of their bill could go down the following month. And for those that care about it, again, we're trying to create an incentive, you're right. But right now it's just, hey, what's my peak? And some of the customers are actually work hard to chase, to drive their demand charge down. Other ones, they don't care. We're trying to write, again, a different program, just create some new interest and excitement so that it's something that they can do. And it's also going to be simpler for us to administer the program because it just flows right through our standard billing system. There's no extra work for us to actually make this thing work, besides communication. With that.
So right now, their demand rate is based on their peak.
Their peak,
So,
for the whole month.
Yeah, so would you keep the dollars the same?
That's the intention.
Right, so you keep the dollars the same and effectively change the rate, so they would be charged at a higher rate. But,
Well, it depends, we have to run the math.
right, but the idea is it's revenue neutral, or at least it's cost neutral to them right
Yeah.
now.
Back to Bob's point, if they don't do anything, it's revenue neutral to us. But the idea is to create an incentive, and so the dollars that they would save are the dollars that we would save directly, literally 1-to-1.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to align it. But you're exactly right, that's the intention. So the math, that's why I have to do a little more work. The math has to be basically revenue neutral, sort of where they are right now. And then encourage them to say, hey, look, you guys can save money every month if you take action. And literally every month, which is good. So you know, yeah, so that's the intention.
Does it apply only to the monthly and annual peak or just that bracket of time every day?
Just so this would be just the peaks. Yeah, I think where you're going is, hey, let's, this is just a financial play in terms of catching transmission. There's a whole nother discussion, that you and I have talked about in terms of how do we do this on a daily basis. But this right now is just peak and just industrial where there's big leverage. And if we can make it work here, I mean, every customer's got a different personality. Some people are gonna care and some people aren't. Some industrials can make a difference, they can do something and some of them can't. But here, now that we're putting the control in their hands. All right, any other questions?
When does it start?
We're gonna propose a formal rate in April, and then we wanna get it in place before the summer. So we wanna do a bit of fanfare in terms of communication, so if we do it, it'd probably be effective. Not if, our intention is to try and get it in place by June 1st, so that it's in place for July, August, and there'll be it'll be a lot of communication with the industrials.
Do you have any estimate of the magnitude of the potential peak savings from this?
Just rough estimate, maybe 2 megawatts. But that's a couple $100,000. So it's real money.
It's half of the North Reading battery.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, which is good.
Do you think that it's, I think you could get a 1 month great, when you introduce it, it's gonna happen, but then the next month, you're not gonna go down a megawatt, then the next month goes down a megawatt.
No. Yeah, it won't keep ratcheting down, right?
So no, you're gonna hit it once. And then
Well, hopefully they drop it. If they don't do anything, then they'll pop back up to their old.
you're gonna, well, I just think you're gonna flatten the curve once, but then you can't perpetually lower.
Agreed.
So I think.
Yeah.
It's a one.
It's a step function, not a slope.
So timing wise, it might be, like you said, and do it in the summer.
Yeah, we can get July, August.
Do it, yeah.
Well,
July, August, and then, okay, don't do it again until the next year. I mean, it's
No.
something you could do like that.
Well, so there's always a benefit the intention behind it, if we set it up, not if we set it up right, but the intention in terms of how we set it up is that if they don't do anything, they're paying what they've been paying all along.
Yeah.
If they take action, they're saving. Every time they do something, they're saving. So it won't ratchet down each time. It doesn't reset their basis, right? It doesn't keep ratcheting that down. Their basis is still where it was historically. And if they save, great. If they do something great in the following month, they don't do it, then they're back up to where they were. So then 2 months later, if they do it, then they're back down. But the key thing for us, so we want them to take action, but we're trying to make a mechanism where what they do is directly attributable to what our costs are. We're trying to, that's why the line is there. We're trying to align their load with our load. That's the key piece. Sorry?
No, that savings is not just a one-off, it's every month they would want to do it, right?
Every month they do it. If they don't do it, then there's no savings for them, and then there's no savings for us. But if they do it, every month they have every month it's a new chance to do it. I think what Bob's trying to say is not like it ratchets down, then ratchets down again. It's up here and they
Keep
ratchet
trying every month to
Yeah.
save them. whatever.
their normal load curve will be more like the orange curve, and if they're successful, then they'll be down to the gray line.
Mhm.
And then, the next day, or for that matter, the next month, but as you pointed out, we ultimately want to try and get this to be ultimately what we're trying to do is get to what we call a unity load curve, where the load curve for us is flat.
Yep.
And now we've optimized. Now, we'll never get there, but that's the ultimate goal, if we can. Right,
If
but
this
so-
works as you predict for the I rate, then you could try it with the commercial.
Yeah, then we'll work deeper and deeper into, ultimately where it would go, if we have everybody on time of use, there'll be some version of this that all customers, including residential, can find. But that's, it's a little bit further down.
That's
the
in
road.
at least 6 months.
That's a 24, earliest would be a 2024 event. Yeah, it's not 6 months, yeah, exactly right. But
So to get them excited about this, would you use like a summer month profile to show that
Yeah.
the summer month, this is what it looks
We'll
like?
take each one of we'll take their exact profile, because we have it.
Yeah, you take it for, you take their worst case scenario, so you can tell them this
Yeah,
is.
well, so what typically is done with energy is, you take the last 3 years, we'll take the last 3 years of July and August, or June, July.
Yeah, so
here's your curve.
take the months that matter the most.
Yeah, we'll take summer months, because that's, we've done all sorts of analysis, and we've shown you guys in the past. Yeah. The summer months are the high months on the industrials. They're even higher on the residentials, which is back to, 2024, 2025, realistically 2020, within that range, somewhere in there. But when everybody participates, remember that, the big leverage will be on the residentials. But let's get the pieces worked out first, and then we'll get to the residentials. The residentials are 40% of our loads. We get them, and the industrials are 30% of our load. So this is a good place to start. Okay, EV1 rate. So we've talked about EV1 rate before. I'm just going to hit a couple of the key pieces. We had some, issues associated with, 1 meter versus 2 meters. Do we have enough meters, et cetera, et cetera. So while we're not trying to make it fit every EV charger, we said, let's at least get it started. We'll do residential only. The intention behind here is twofold, right? The intention is to encourage people that are considering or that are in the process of buying a new car to consider buying electric, right? So there's additional savings in terms of net cost of electricity versus fuel. And then the second element, which is equally important, is to shape or encourage their behavior to charge at night. Hopefully they will normally charge at night anyway because it's convenient to charge at night. But we want to reinforce that. So we had talked before about, so there's two big parts of the equation. One is, what are the windows? When I say windows, so we had originally talked a year and a half ago about 3 8-hour periods because it's easy to remember. But the afternoon 8-hour period just seemed too long. With you. So we basically said 2 10s and a 4. So the 4, which is the peak one, is between 4 and 8 p.m. And that corresponds to not only where our peaks are right now, but where the peaks are headed. So if we were to go back 15 years, our peaks at RMLD would be 4 or 5 in the afternoon. Now they're 5 to 6, sometimes 7. So we're trying to stay in that range for the high peak. The expensive peak for us, which means expensive peak for our customers, between 4 and 8. And then the other ones, just for simplicity, we took the other 20 hours and split it into 2 10-hour blocks. So it's 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. and 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. And they have different rates, but we're sub 10 cents overnight, highly discounted, still make money, we still cover our costs. And then very expensive between 4 and 8 in the afternoon if you sign up for this rate. Net, if 80% of the charging is done overnight, the rate would be about 13 cents, which is about 28 cents less than our 2023, this is roughly 2023 rates, than our typical residential rate for electric vehicles. So there's incentive to do it. I expect when we release this, and we'll do a motion on the March meeting, but if we do this, we'll probably have less than 50 people, maybe 3 dozen do it. So it's going to be small. But and the reason we're doing it is we're trying to get some experience, right? We're trying to see, what do people do, and the people that are going to do this are going to be kind of the early adopters. They're going to be the ones that want to play. We'll get feedback from it as well. So that's the intention behind it. That's the structure. It's not radically different from what we've talked about before. We just fine-tuned it and said, hey, look, let's just make it residential initially, because when we do the public chargers, it becomes a little bit more involved, particularly when you get into the DC fast chargers.
Is it called the Talbot rate?
No, we haven't named it. EV1 rate. Next slide, please. So
Separate meter?
yes, that's me. I mean,
So definitely a niche customer.
it's very niche customers. So
Because very quickly
so
it
we'll-
won't be a separate.
yeah, if you want to put your house on it, you can, but you'll end up spending more money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll make sure that people understand that.
Yeah, that's exactly what's gonna happen. They're gonna say, I got the low one, I put my meter on this rate, I'm gonna wire everything to this.
Yeah.
Right? No.
Yeah, it's not gonna play that way. Yeah, go ahead.
I do have, and it's Bob's joke is appropriate because, so you're envisioning creating a super low overnight, a new time of use rate with a super low overnight,
Yeah.
right? So we already have one. We already have a time of use.
We have 8 time, yeah, no, right, we have an 8.2 rate, which is a time of use rate.
Right, so there is a rate that residents can use right now
Yeah,
that has lower rates from evening throughout till the next day at noon and weekends.
yes, that's true.
And I have that rate
You do.
now.
Well, I don't know that for sure, but yes.
Well, I do have it. So to Bob's point, like, the fact that rate is there, that's the rate anybody who buys an EV is gonna wanna use. You already have a rate that they can
Well,
use.
actually, if they do the charger, that's a requirement to go to that rate. That's true.
Okay, so by creating yet another one, all you're doing is you're gonna make it even cheaper for people like me, because they're gonna switch to the even better time of use rate, and you just lost revenue from me by adopting the Talbot rate.
But
Because I will switch to that, sorry.
there's so few of them.
No, there's a
There'll be a
lot,
lot of them.
there's a lot of
There'll be a
electric
lot of
cars coming in now, they're all gonna choose this even cheaper overnight rate. You're gonna lose revenue, and I feel like you should impose one time-based rate should follow what your rate, what the power is costing. And
Which this does. So I think what you're arguing, can I play back, that maybe
you tweak, you
we
might.
get rid of, either we tweak or we get rid of the
Yeah,
A2 rate?
you need one time of use rate, and you're gonna change it and you should make me pay more, not less, by moving it to 8 PM, because that 7 to 8 PM, am I wrong, is still the kind of the peak.
So
not
4 to 8,
4 to 8 is, but right now,
It's 12 to 7 is the current, the
Correct.
A2 rate is 12 to 7.
Right, so you
Which
drop me from peak to off peak at 7 PM, but you're still in your peak. So that needs to change
Agreed,
to the benefit of RMLD and the ratepayer.
agreed,
People like
that's
me.
A2.
Yep, and people like me will get hit by that, which is appropriate.
Yep.
But just giving us an overnight rate that's dirt cheap, I'm just gonna switch to that and save even more money. It's not gonna make me buy an electric car. I already have an electric car.
I know, but I hear you.
I don't know why you want two time use
Well, the idea, but that's why I was saying that.
rates. Yes,
If I go to that cheap rate, it shuts off. Right? And if you think you're gonna you run your house on everything at,
Between 4 and 8,
so
the primary load is between 4 and 8, so you can move your whole house. So to your point, if you want to move your whole house to this rate, you will be paying more. And it will do exactly what you said. It'll correspond to RMLD cost. So I think what I'm taking away is go back and look to have one time of use residential.
one time use.
Ultimately,
Yes.
we'll only have one rate.
Yes.
But for this intermediate step, maybe what we do is we take the A2 rate, which is in existence today.
Right.
We make these kind of modifications, we'll call it A3 or EV, whatever, we'll figure out what is a good name for it. And maybe we'll adjust it, we'll move the middle of the night a little bit higher and maybe make the afternoon not quite expensive. Because this afternoon rate at 75 cents a kilowatt hour, that's, we're making, that's a margin maker for RMLD right now.
So I mean, if you have two time use residential rates, people are gonna cherry pick based on their particular situation, which one to use. And the net is.
And for those that run the analysis, right, for the 100 people, you're right.
There are people like us out there.
Yeah.
And.
Okay, so here's what I think, here's my takeaway for the recommendation. So because we're gonna present this to you next, but go back and look at maybe taking the A2 rate and recrafting that with some of the features of this rate. But whatever we call it, don't create a third, create only two.
I would say, yeah, simplify your rates, not make it more complicated with a new custom one that 40 people are gonna use. Or, what is it, 400 use the A2 rate, 500, 300?
Yeah, it's not.
And it's like, so the new people coming in will take the overnight one and they'll look at which one is slightly better, and we'll just lose revenue, it'll be confusing.
I don't think I'll lose revenue, but I hear you. So I'm with you. So the takeaway?
Yeah, it's the one.
Well, and most of
Yeah.
the new EVs are incremental load, so that is incremental revenue. by definition.
For sure,
Yeah.
no matter what, we're selling more,
Yep.
Electricity.
Yeah.
That's true,
Which we like.
we do, but we wanna, to your point, we wanna push them to off-peak.
Yes.
I just feel like there should be one time of use rate, and it should be
So
gradually imposed across more of the.
So I think that's good. I think that's good feedback. Just do one
Yeah.
residential time of use. And we'll have the A rate for a while until 24, 25 timeframe when we can roll the whole thing out. But this will be a good incremental step.
So you still wanna create the second rate and then merge them later.
Well, I want to have at least one time of use rate. And so let me play back the takeaway. I think what we'll do is we'll take the A2 rate, which is currently in existence, and we will take some of the structure of this EV1 rate, combine it or merge it into the A2 rate and create a new A2 rate. Now, we might call it something other than A2, but there will only be one residential time of use rate, not two, which is what, if we have A2 and EV1, we'd have two. And I think what you're saying, which I think is great input, create one.
think so.
Yeah, I think that's what
Does anybody
we'll-
disagree?
we'll
Why,
shoot.
why is that not a good
We'll
idea?
shoot, we'll have to fine tune the numbers even more, but yeah.
You haven't hit your I don't care curve yet.
Right.
You have your people who have the cars not care, and you're watching your bill as the electric vehicle usage grows. You're going to hit your, I don't care. Plug it
Yeah.
in, and, because I need it, right, and that's.
Well, there'll always be those guys.
No, absolutely,
Right.
and what percentage is it,
Yeah, but I
that's
think,
the real thing.
but I think what we're trying to do, what the discussion we've had in the past is, we want the customers we want them to be, their behavior to more directly reflect the cost, the
Yep.
cost that it is to serve, it, right?
Absolutely.
Right, so that's the whole drive behind town use, and so I think we're all on the same page there. There's another piece which there is steady pressure, now, for the past 2 years, that the cost of energy is increasing. And there's also, with the electrification of EVs, there's a steady increase in terms of the amount of kilowatt hours that are being consumed. Right, and we want to do, one of the things that Bill brings is, other creative ideas in terms of more efficiency, right? So we want to keep the efficiency in the play with the electrification, right? So other ways to reduce the incremental load, but the incremental load is still going up, right? That's still happening. So as those numbers get bigger, what is now $138, $140 bill, for some people, they care a lot about it. Other people are like, hey, whatever, it's auto pay, I don't care. But when that bill becomes a $400 bill, right? And again, we're gonna do everything we can to keep the, our collective rates low. But if we've got load increasing, and we've got rates increasing, it's not, I don't know how quickly it's gonna get to it, but there's gonna be some threshold where they are gonna care. And back to your point, which is what you're trying to drive us, hey, make the customers aware of what the cost is so that they do behave differently. Right. And so I think we're trying to get the same place, but I think your idea of simplicity is good. So we'll fine tune this one. Make sense? Okay. Okay. Last one, battery storage. So just a quick update on battery storage. Oh, sorry. Great. So good. So good.
Not even here. I nailed it.
I'll be there in 25 seconds. So, as we've talked about before, battery storage, it's not a generator, right? It's not the end all be all for everything, but it's an important part of our portfolio in terms of how we manage power supply in particular, but also how we manage load and distribution network. And so that first 5 megawatts, that station 3, that is a system that's been in place for 3 years now, or almost 3 years now. It's the one that was part of the ACES grant. So it is, was structured under energy service agreement with NextEra. Part of that energy service agreement had a guarantee of at least 5 megawatts of output. So they had to do augmentation, which means they've had to replace battery packs or modules, actually would be the technical term, to keep it at. So that is nearly complete. It's all done, but they're doing some final connections, testing, et cetera. But it's basically running at 5 megawatts. For those of you that sign off occasionally on power supply, you might have noticed that I guess last fall, there were a couple of ones where there was a penalty where we got a savings from, we ended up paying less with our monthly fee because they weren't quite at the 5 megawatt level. So they're back at the 5 megawatt, they're about to be back at the 5 megawatt level. Anyways, that system's going well. That's an existing system. That's the first one. The next one down, the 10 megawatt system at the Fordham site, that's the one that we discussed and approved last year. We continue to move forward on that particular project. It's likely to be commissioned, if not at the end of the year, probably the first quarter of 2024, which is good. And then, as we had mentioned before, we had sent out and we've received back an RFP for a series of other battery storage systems. They're listed there, Station 3, Industrial Way, Station 6, and Maple Meadows. Obviously, Maple Meadows is still a work in process, but the other Station 3, Industrial Way, and Station 6 are all pieces of property that we have right now. So we're in the process of analyzing those, as I mentioned before. Bill just finished last year a similar project, so he'll be helping us to do the final analysis and making good recommendations on that. The last Maple Meadow one is a little bit different. It says grid rather than distribution. We actually made a request. We have some bids on that one, but that would be a grid connection as opposed to a distribution connection. So it would be a very different business model. So we're evaluating that one as well. From an RMLD customer perspective, that is just to create some economics, given our unique location and in terms of our tie points with National Grid and Eversource transmission systems to leverage our geographic unique position to create some economic savings for our customers by playing it on the wholesale side. So more work to be done there, but just so that you guys know that that's in process. The other ones we're digging deep into, and then in a couple of months report back to those that we want to actually get permission to enter into a energy services agreement. So again, a lot of progress here. The last one at the very bottom, we've got actually very active discussions right now with some long duration systems, different chemistries, not lithium ion. The ones above that very last line are all peaker systems, systems. This last one, that last bullet there, based on some introductions that our CAB representative had introduced us to, and also at the NEPA annual meeting, there was a company that was focusing on storage. So we've got dialogues under NDA going on with both of them for long-term storage and trying to figure out how that plays into the resiliency, reliability play more than the peak shaving play. So again, we're really trying to, how do you think about storage, not only from managing the economics, but from a resiliency play. So just, there's more details on that, but just so that you guys know, and so the public knows, we're very active in terms of looking at storage for both time shifting and peak shaving. Questions, thoughts, questions?
I had, go ahead.
No, good.
Okay, so what's like, what's a indicative example of the costs associated with installing one of those and then the ongoing O&M costs over time? I mean, it's millions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
And well worth it. So the question I have is, that's envisioning millions of dollars. What if those millions or half of that was invested in really getting aggressive with demand side management at these same industrial companies that you are now going to tweak this rate, which is great.
Yeah.
But really getting in there with heavy financial incentives for them to really, really reshape what they're doing. And then you don't have to build it, or you have to build less stuff.
Yeah.
Through behavior and policies and costs and investments, demand side management. Because to your point, I mean, it seems like not a whole lot. Yes, some things have been done with the industrial customers, but what I was hearing earlier is not a whole heck of a lot.
We're going to ramp that back up again.
I mean, and there's so much opportunity there, probably, if it was worth their while.
Yeah.
So I guess I'd like to hear at some point of what could that look like as we consider, okay, let's spend 20 million on a 10 megawatt battery with considering OpEx and CapEx.
Yeah, so two things. I think the reminder or the prompt, look at the efficiency programs, is good relative to the industrials. Because we actually are trying to find new programs, right? So the biggest thing was the lighting, and that's all done. So what's the next thing behind lighting, right? And there's not as many obvious things, but that's not to say that they're not there. The biggest issue is how do you help them change their use behaviors?
Right.
On a regular basis, how do you reduce the load? But now, how do you reduce it at our peaks, going back to this peak? So, I think that's a good prompt. And again, Bill's going to bring some additional expertise with his work at Eversource as well as at NWIC in terms of what other programs can we put in place. So I think that's good. But just for clarity, on these battery storage systems, all of these are done under an energy services agreement. So we are not actually, our intention is not, so ultimately it gets paid for by shared savings, but we're trying to, with the battery storage systems, unlike what we're starting to do with solar or generation, where we're actually going to invest and get grant dollars for it. This is a different structure. So I don't want to not do this.
No, I'm not suggesting that you're not doing it. I'm just, but I think to see a range of options.
Yeah, I think that's good.
And also the other thing to keep in mind is, I mean, these things, there's an efficiency loss of what goes in.
Yep.
You don't get the same amount. You get, what do you lose, 30%?
No, like 50%.
Okay, so if you charge the battery, you only get 85% back out of
It
it.
depends on the chemistry. So like some of these long duration ones, the round trip efficiency is much lower.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lithium ion, the round trip efficiency is better. Capacitors is very light, right?
But if you have demand side, it's always 100%.
The only problem with the demand side is that, it's within the customer's
I
control.
know.
It's not in
I understand. But with the rate of dollars,
Right.
Well, I think that goes back to with the right incentives, and I think the coincident peak is a piece of it, but I think what you're saying is look deeper. Yeah, and that's our takeaway, right? So
Yeah,
that's good feedback.
Sorry, so a couple of points. One is on demand side, like, companies like Enernoc have been doing it for years, right?
Well, go ahead.
Right, I mean, that's demand,
Yeah, that's demand response.
that's demand response.
They don't do that anymore, but keep going.
But but there's a lot of industrial demand response that's being done, right? So I don't know how that's different, because I know people like Stop and Shop and all, I guess they are enrolled in those kind of programs. And Ken Welter used to work with Stop and Shop, so I think he would know from a
Yeah.
customer perspective as to what incentives work for them. So that would be a good way to get to Dave's
So I
point.
think the concept's good. Bob's got a temporary, thing. I'll let you make a comment.
And then.
But we want to try it.
Now for the reality check.
My second comment was about the longer duration system.
Yeah,
They can provide resilience,
yes,
but if you have the play of selling back on the grid, so you can be resilient and be making money every day. So because typically a long duration, if it's a pure insurance program, it has a high cost,
correct.
but it's treated as an insurance asset. But if you have the capability and the systems worked out to be a player in the market, then you can have much better economics.
Yeah, and this is exactly, we're trying to, that's why we're having the discussions with two of those guys. I mean, very detailed discussions where, right now, probably not for us to buy, but they're looking for pilot locations where they can work this stuff out. And so we're trying to, so on these longer term places, the resiliency is the piece, but we're looking for that economic piece, all of us are, and them too. So we're looking to work with them together to figure it out, and to try it. And the good news is, we are a great size for them, we're big enough, and we have the connection points, yet we're nimble enough to be responsive. So that's why they're actually trying to work with us. That nobody has, because the efficiency cycle of those is so low, it creates a very, how to make the economics work.
But they're flow batteries, right?
There's a bunch of different technologies, and so we've got two of those that we're hoping to, and that's not gonna be till the end of 2024, when we can even have hardware here, from their perspective, not us, like, we take it in the end of, fourth quarter of this year, but they won't be ready for us until the end of 2024 at the earliest. But exactly the right thing, that's why we're trying to engage with them to learn together, because there's an economic gain, there's an economic play here, because we can play on both the distribution side and the transmission side, given the fact that we have 2 tie points and soon to be 3, and Maple, if we do Maple, it'll be 4 tie points. Whole new game. Reality check.
Well, I guess, our job's to power the business, not to run the business, right? We supply power to the businesses.
Yeah.
And let them run. I know, Dave, you wanna get in and tell them.
We give them money.
Well, you don't go in there and tell them how to run their business. You go in there and say, okay, if they choose to use more energy because they're growing, they're gonna use more energy, right? That simple factor. So I think the focus is work on our side, not their side. And I'm not knocking what you're saying, right? Because there's a good point.
Yeah.
When they realize money, how I can affect my own demand curve, great, how can I do it? But let's just stay behind the wall, right? Stay behind the transformer and do our work, but, that's all. I just don't want to see us getting, if they're interested, great, you can work with them.
Make it easy for them to participate if they can.
It's just not clear how much of that interaction is happening.
Oh, I think everybody in the planet's changed over to an LED light.
Sure, but I mean,
Right,
as far
and
as-
everybody's.
Taking turning motors.
Yeah, I mean, anything like that.
The simple stuff is done,
Shifting
right?
schedule.
I think that the easy stuff, now it's hard.
And that's
Right, now it's hard. Now you're going into, do I have something that's efficient? Right now, you're in a different ballgame, it's and then, what's my payback on a higher energy efficient system going in, is it, we talked about, is it gas, is it electric? I don't know.
No, we have done, just not as many of them, so part of this promotion, but we have on the commercial side, we have a custom energy program where if they choose a more efficient system, we actually, we'll write them a check that we run for the calculations, but we actually do that. But we need to figure out more opportunities because they're, back to Bob's point, there's not as many, most of
Yeah,
them,
yeah, yeah.
they've done VFD drives, they've done the the high efficiency compressors, so what's next? And the next thing, I think, goes back to where your intuition says, is how do you change behaviors, right? And so this coincident might be a piece, but I think you're prompting us to, hey, think deeper in terms of what else you can do that would be maybe more behavioral. How they do it, back to Bob's point, is, we're not running their place.
No.
But if we create the incentives for them to take action, then that's a win. Okay, so that's good. Anyway, so that's really helpful, I think, from an IRD perspective, the feedback. Any other comments?
I have a related question or comment.
Yeah.
We've not enough time to Bob through it, but. Kidding aside, so how much?
There's a reason why we separated you.
How much installed solar capacity is in our?
About 9 megawatts.
Okay, so at noon on a sunny day, solar panels in RMLD territory is cranking out 9 megawatts.
Yeah, 9.
And during the peaks at 3 or 4 on a sunny day, it's probably half that, right? 4.
Well, in the summertime, so the peak of the summertime, yeah, we're probably 6. So we have that, yes. So it's probably 2/3.
So here's what I'm driving at. So
There's nothing in the wintertime.
During those times, right, exactly, it's done by 3. You're paying people 5 cents a take a kilowatt hour for excess solar that they're generating not using. If on those monthly peaks or annual peaks, you were to say, I'm going to give you 50 cents a kilowatt hour. Meanwhile, you're paying $3 a kilowatt, whatever you're paying 10x that amount because it's the peak or whatever it is.
Go ahead.
I don't know.
Keep going.
Is the idea is that you say for those days, those people who are generators are incented to let their system flow back onto the grid for higher than the 5 cent kilowatt hour. Because you have a latent 4-5 megawatt sitting on people's roofs, and they're not thinking about, well, what if I dialed my usage back at my house a little more? I'd get paid more because it's the peak.
That's a good point, right? So it reduced load. So at the end of the day, either net load on the house will be lower, and whether it feeds back or not.
Well, it sent me as a solar owner I get more money if on the peak day that you've declared, I'm getting 30 cents a kilowatt hour instead of 5 cents for those 6 days.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then
It's back to the time of use.
And then now you have generation flowing out there that's now not really being used that way.
I'm gonna play it back differently, which is, because the generation's there, no matter what you do for the rates. But we're trying to use the solar piece, which is installed capacity right now, to encourage, because there's more value there to reduce your load at home. Net, we get to the same result, but the behavior will really change, because they aren't gonna change what they do on the solar system. They're gonna change how much energy am I using in my home during those peak hours.
They're gonna give you more of their electricity because they're getting paid more.
They're gonna use less.
They're gonna use less.
On the same page.
Which is essentially the same if everybody did it and it's generating 5 megawatts on that day, then you just created a 5 megawatt generator. If everybody was to, I'm just saying,
Well,
theoretical maximum.
So
it might be half that.
Yeah, so 7 out of that 9, or 7.5 out of that 9 is the commercial systems, and the residential's is
Okay.
1.5. But the point's still taken.
They're getting installed all over the place.
Yeah.
You see them all over the place going up. So it's gonna be 10, 11, 12 megawatts over the next few years, right?
Yeah, but I think the idea is, the point's there. And then the other things we talked about before is on the commercial industrials and the utility systems, unlike what we've done in the past where somebody else has owned them, those we actually do want to own, because those are valuable, right? I mean, the net, it's a win. So, so a time of, I'll call it a solar time of use, but
Pay them more when it's peak day to.
interesting concept, yeah.
But also what happens, right, in reality in the market, when those solar panels are generating their peak during the day, they're driving down the market price.
True.
And that's, if you've got 9 megawatts of batteries, you can store that negative LFP energy.
Right.
The grid will pay you to store it, and then you can discharge it during the peak. So that's another use of the batteries, why they're good to add to this.
There's just another resource out there that there's not an incentive now to let that resource feed into the grid. There isn't one.
Right.
There could be one.
I hear.
It wouldn't take much for me to shut more stuff off.
You're getting
If you give me 10 cents a kilowatt hour, do more. I'm
He's gonna show up as main.
I will. I'm not even kidding, and I'm gonna invite Bob over.
And you'll have the charcoal grill in the back, I'm just teasing. Okay, if we may. Anything else? That's very helpful, thank you. You're getting a sense now that power supply and incentives, it's an engaged topic at RMLD, which is good.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why you're here. Okay.
Thank
So
you. Welcome,
Yes.
Sarah Harrington.
Yes, thank you. I'm Sarah Harrington, I'm the new director of HR. I've been here since the end of December, so I'm very new, not as new as Bill, but still new. 6 weeks, yeah. So, I've been in HR for many years. I teach a class at Middlesex Community College to keep my skills sharp. My class starts next Tuesday. If anyone wants to take an HR class, sign on up. But I'm here to talk about, on the agenda that I have to talk about tonight is our human capital metrics, sort of looking at our workforce, where we are today, where do we want to go. Looking at the recruiting is my number one sort of thing, my charge right now that I'm doing. I am focused on that. So we right now have 76 employees, hoping to be at 100 by the end of 2023. We've started 4 people in the last week and a half, so we're at 80, so we have 20 to go in the next 11 months. We are crazy with interviews, so hopefully we'll get there. I also want to talk about our leadership and supervisor development. We have plans to train our supervisors, our frontline supervisors, and our employees to give them the tools and the skills that they can do their job better, train other people to become future supervisors and leaders, and be better equipped to help RMLD. And then I'll talk about streamlining processes as well. What is in store, hopefully for 2023. Talk briefly about an HRIS system and what that means to us, if we ever get it, as Greg is laughing. But that's what I would like to talk about with you all tonight. So starting off with our HCM metrics, or human capital metrics, looking at our workforce generation right now, our number one generation is Generation X, followed by our millennials and then our baby boomers. And then Gen Z, we have 6 Gen Z employees. So it's important to know what they want. Why are they staying at RMLD? Sort of what is their employee value proposition? Why do they come to work here? And why do they stay? We have to focus on our baby boomers, as they will be the ones that are phasing out of the workforce the next 5, 10, 15 years. And they sort of have what I call tribal knowledge. And we need to make sure that they pass it on to other people in the workforce, so that they're training the Gen X and the millennials and the Gen Z. So making sure we're passing that on to them. So I thought it was just interesting that our top 3 were X, Y, and boomers. So it is interesting. We'll see the alpha generation next. I don't think they're going to be working anytime soon, but they will be coming up next. And who knows what we have in store with them. But just to give you a snapshot, this is our workforce by generation. For our departures for the last 2 years, in 2021, we had 10 people leave. 1 person left within what we call a new employee, so within their first 12 months, and that was a line worker. So the majority of our terminations over the last 2 years have been in the line department. And then in 2022, we doubled in turnover. So we went from 10 to almost double to 19. And we had 2 people leave within 2022 within their first 12 months. So again, that was part of the line department. So hoping that recruiting and retention are our biggest, what I'm focusing on. And we have to look at who is leaving voluntarily, who is going to retire. So we have the retirement age up there as 60. So in 2023, we can have 20 people leave. 2024, we can have 23, that no one leaves in 23. And then 25, it goes up to 24 employees. If you bump up that retirement age just 5 years, it drops drastically. 2023 goes to 5, and 24 and 25 go to 10. So that is what we're planning on. Those people, we need to get their knowledge and have succession planning if they're in a key role and position within RMLD to make sure that the transition is smooth. And when they do decide to leave, we have someone that can come in and step into their place when we don't miss a beat. As for a tenure, this is very interesting. 37% of our employees are within their first 5 years, and 30 employees, are in their first 12 months, which I think is amazing. So we really need to focus on the retention of retaining these employees, as well as our other employees. So if you look at the 6 to 10 years, we have 13 employees, 11 to 20 is 13, and then it trickles down. So we have to look at what are engagements or what are drivers of retention, right? The number one reason why people leave is they quit their boss. They don't quit the job. It's not money. It's really your relationship with your manager. So we want to build those strong relationships with the employees and their managers. People like work-life balance. They want to feel that they're not burning out, because burnout is real. It truly happens. If someone is burning the candle at both ends, they're trying to do too much, they'll burn out, and they won't be productive. They'll be very unhappy. Now, the third driver is recognition. Telling them that they're doing a good job, even if it's just a great job. It doesn't have to be money or that driven. It's just, hey, great job doing it, Bill. Thanks for your hard work.
I'm in the plus. I forgot the one at the.
And then career training and development. People want to learn new things. They want to be cross-trained. They want to grow within an organization. When we bring people in, we talk about their growth plans with RMLD. You start in the control room. One day you could be the lead line marketer. You could be a troublemaker. You could be whatever you want to be. So we help them. We develop these development plans for these employees to help them move along, which we'll talk a little bit more about. But that's our tenure, and I just thought it was fascinating that 30 people are within their first 12 months. Like, that is amazing. Recruiting, again, this is my number one focus. It is hot, hot, hot. We've brought on 4 people since January 1st, which is amazing. So in 22, we hired 26 people. In 23, we'll probably hire at least 25 people to get us to that 100 mark. And that doesn't include any churn that we see of people leaving or moving to other departments, internal transfers, and things like that. So we currently have 10 open positions that we're looking on, and we're also looking to hire summer interns. And we are looking at creative ways to get those interns and creative ways to recruit. So in the past, we really just did RMLD website, and that was it. And we just waited for LinkedIn and Monster to pick up our postings, and it was very passive. Since I've come on, we have gone on to ZipRecruiter, which really, I am so surprised that it's been so fruitful. We're getting so many resumes. I'm like, great, great, great. And he's like, keep them coming. I'm like, they're coming. So ZipRecruiter has been great for us. High quality, like for different, not just one job, for many jobs, for IRD, for operational assistants, for control room, analysts, engineer, things like that. We're also on LinkedIn. So we're all linked on LinkedIn. So when one person posts, like I saw Greg's last night and I shared his post, he's like, hey, you're hiring, we have an analyst. I'm like, yep. So we share it. We create cards that we can post on and put it up there. So we all have that sort of the same message that we're hiring, this is what we look like. So we're uniform. And LinkedIn, we're looking to do it with other social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or it's just that common message. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We've been Chamber of Commerce. We post with them, and I change the jobs out every month so they don't get stale. So sort of spice it up, and people can see what else we're hiring for. Today we had people at Merrimack College. Tomorrow, Hamid's going to WPI to get our full-time positions and our interns as well. We want to get 3 to 4, maybe even 5 interns for the summer to work in different divisions. And then we'll be at UMass Lowell in March. So again, we'll get interns and engineers there too. Internal referrals have been great. We've hired 2 so far from people within RMLD. So that is great. That speaks volumes. If someone's like, hey, come work where I work, it's a great place. That's huge to me. That is really good. And recruiters, I've been hesitant to use them because I don't need to spend so much money. I want to see what I can do first and what we can do as a team in RMLD. Talking about interviews, we have 13 scheduled for next week. So we're like moving and grooving. So it's a good thing. Leadership and supervisor development. So our employees have something called a career development plan. But I want to add on to that and give them trainings for soft skills like time management, how to handle conflict resolution, how to run a meeting effectively, but also the tougher ones of compliance, like preventing sexual harassment and discrimination in the workplace bullying, violence in the workplace, getting our managers and frontline supervisors equipped if something happens, they don't panic, and they know what to do. So that is something that we're baking into their CDPs. Maya is also, they do our wellness, they do our workers' comp, and we are looking to partner possibly with the town to get those free trainings as well. And if we do use Maya, I believe we get a discount for some type of credit towards our annual premium, so we'll do that as well. And then third party, I know that the engineering department and IRD, they have some outside vendors that you go to, that's again baked into the CDPs for their linemen, their engineers and so forth. But we're looking at other avenues to get our trainings out to our leadership and to our first line supervisors and employees, so they have the skills. And then lastly, to streamline the process, an HRIS system is something I am dying to get. That's a human resource information system where information is at your fingertips. So you can pull a dashboard of what does my turnover look like? Who's my head count? You can drill down. Where is our highest turnover? Is it voluntary, involuntary? Who's the manager? What's going on? What's the reason? Things like that. Who's on benefits? What's the tenure of our employees? What's our overtime? And it can be for a defined time. It can be for a month, a quarter, a week. We can pull that all, and then we can see if there's any trends, and if we need to maybe do some trainings with managers to maybe how to control overtime, or how to effectively hire someone. If we're seeing people leave within the first year, are they given a realistic job preview, and did that manager do a good job hiring people and so forth? So this is something that is coming, I am told. I am super excited for it because it'll make it easier. It'll have dashboards that we can look at finances or just HR. You know, I'm sure that Greg will want different dashboards than I want, and Bill will want different ones. So it's just easy to manage our business, and it tells a story of where we are and where we're going and how we're going to get there. That's it. Thank you. Great.
Questions?
Questions?
No, wow.
I talk a lot. I talk fast.
I have a lot of high energy.
I know.
Thank you.
We're glad you're here.
So we were approximately 80 employees, right, and 100, that's, where do you see most of that growth? Is it line, is it metering, is it engineering, is it?
It's a lot of the, it's spread around. It's analysts, it's engineering, it's operational assistants for engineers, for assistants for those divisions. We're looking for another engineering and operational, I call it OA operational assistant, to help because it's such a big department that they need more support. Another control room, substation techs. It's really all over the place. It's not just one area. It's spread out throughout RMLD.
So how many then you are, how many people would you, out of those 20, how many would you be getting?
5, 6.
We have two, substation techs we're looking for right now, another control room operator, just distribution engineer.
And you filled most of the line positions.
Yeah, the lines both.
Line, we're
That was
also,
2022.
Yeah,
there are 6 or 7, 2 operational assistants.
yeah, you have, you probably have 6 or 7.
Other things?
Great, thanks.
Julie? No, sorry.
Tough act to follow. Step up my game a little bit. So this is our communications update. The first item is our customer satisfaction survey. So we began fielding responses in actually at the end of January. And we're collecting responses through February 20th, and we have hit our residential goals, and we're very close to our commercial goals. And we will be providing a report on March 10th. So hopefully next meeting or the meeting after that, we'll be able to share our findings, which we're very excited about. The next item is a minor refresh of our website. So we realized that our website wasn't very mobile friendly because we had a lot of buttons that made it, really long to scroll. So we had a conversation with our web development team, and there are a lot of updates that we want to do, but we have to wait until the spring to implement those because they're doing some updates on our, whatever our web platform is. So in the meantime, we're developing an architecture to the site and, having certain things be front and center. I'm looking at the analytics of the website. So one example is that we're looking at what people are searching for with our search bar. So that shows that if you have to use the search bar, that's something that's hard to navigate on the site. And a lot of people are searching for solar. So that's one example of something that we're going to put front and center on our website. I've been looking at competitor websites and I've seen that a lot of them will have a button that says ways to save, which I think is great. And that'll include rebates and efficiency tips. So I'm just doing research on what I think will be helpful to our site and user friendly. So that'll be coming in the coming months. But in the meantime, we just did a minor refresh that I think is good for the interim, and it makes our website display a lot better on mobile devices. So next, social media, we're still seeing steady organic growth, and our posts can reach up to 2,900 people. And Facebook has become a top top source for web referrals to our site. One avenue one thing that I've been doing is posting our open job positions, and those tend to be our highest engaged posts. So it shows that people are looking at our open positions and want to work at RMLD. So it's been nice to see that. Next, we had a home energy audit webinar in January, and we had 240 registrants and 85 live attendees. And after that, we saw a spike in audit registrations, which is a great thing, but there's also a very long wait list for the audits. Well, not long, but a few month lead time. So E&E is working on those, and I think they're working on getting an additional auditor, but it just shows that people want to improve the efficiency of their home, especially given, prices being higher, and we're setting people up to do that, which is great. Next, our bill increase, which we announced at the end of last meeting. So what I wanted was to be proactive instead of reactive, because as you know, these meetings are televised, so I didn't want media picking up on the meetings and posting things without our messages being incorporated. So shortly after our meeting ended, I updated our website. I sent communications out to the local media, and everything, all of our key messages were picked up. So if you look at the coverage across our local media, it has our key messages in there about how we're waiting till March to reduce the burden and the reason for the increases, and also the comparison to IOUs. And lastly, other highlights. So during the recent cold snap, our space heater safety tips were posted on the Reading patch in advance of the cold snap, just to remind people about the hazards of space heaters. And our elementary school art contest, I sent everyone an email. That's going to be taking place in March. The submissions were wonderful. We're excited about that. And I notified the winners this week, and I'm planning the award ceremony. And another thing is the high school art contest that is on our website as well as of today. So that will be in the spring.
Great, thank you, Julie. I know the tradition of the art contest is popular, and I love the submissions so much. I want it to continue and grow, and put your own stamp on morphing it into more or something. Right now, it's only 3rd grade and 10th grade.
4th grade and high school.
4th and 5th, okay. But I've just always had such a problem with the subjective nature of art and children.
Of course, yes.
As a contest. I just, on one hand, we're saying, do this, we love what you do. And the other say, but we're only gonna pick one.
Right.
And I just, that could kill a kid.
So
this is
to your
the Final Four, it's art.
So to your point, so we have 3 winners for each school, and what I guess struck a chord with me was at one school, there were two twins, like one is in first place and one is in third. And I talked to a teacher and I said, maybe next year, like, what do you think? We don't rank and just have 3 winners. It's too late this year, but yeah, the whole ranking.
Why can't every
That's true,
participant
right, and have, like, we,
just
exactly,
participate? They don't have to get anything.
right, and have, no, I love that idea, and have, like a celebration of, and like a gallery instead of, you know, kids don't really care about a 25, like they're getting Barnes and
If
Noble.
we turn out one kid from pursuing art
course,
anymore,
yes.
or always feeling like I'm not as good as I thought I was,
Right.
as young as 9 years old, then we have failed terribly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it was
do
something,
that.
like I was in like tunnel vision and, you know, just wanted to follow the procedure that we've been doing, but I did take a step back and think that, yeah, it did bother me ranking them, especially 4th graders. I have a 2nd grader and, you know, as a mom,
My 7th grader still remembers the 4th grade ordeal.
Oh,
She
really?
lost to, yeah, and she knows she's not an artist, but it was just another nail in the coffin. And, but I'm not
Yeah.
gonna use her as it, like.
Yeah, but
no, and I agree. I
It's-
think next
they
year,
are
I
so
love that
young.
idea
I
to
want them to
just,
enjoy it.
yep, have submissions and then have a gallery and we can even, you know, work with the schools and have, it doesn't even have to be here, like the school, they can be on display at the schools, they can be on display at the library
I think the
even.
display is
Mhm.
the prize.
Yes.
You know, showing
I
it
agree, to
all.
say, yeah.
The submissions are amazing.
And you, yeah,
So on that, would you still select 1 or 2 prints to go into the report, or you would stop?
so that's the high school art. The high school art
goes on the cover for the yellow.
Transition of the leadership team here, and we might, I don't know, we have.
Right. So that's the high school one, I feel like so the high school one isn't mandatory, so what I'm seeing, and we're just starting the high school one, the elementary school one is mandatory, it's all the art class, it's either through the art class or the science class, and every 4th grader within our territory has to participate, whereas high school, it's, you know, the artistically inclined kids that want to participate. So I think that, and high schoolers are probably a little more thick-skinned, and we pick a few overall winners.
I think it goes hand in hand.
Four towns.
We didn't make it.
I'm sorry?
I don't know.
Sorry,
I'm not sure.
Historically, and I wasn't here, you weren't here, how was that managed that it'd be mandatory though, these art classes first?
because not so we give the schools a chance to opt in. So it's not for the schools that choose to participate, which is every school in our territory. In the past, there were some that didn't, but this year, all elementary schools participated and it became part of the curriculum. So, because they're learning about electricity in 4th grade and it's tied to some kind of standard. So I think the teachers enjoy, you know, it's something like one less thing for them to plan. But I do really
I
think
think
for
it's
next
great.
year, yes, and it is, and seeing the submissions are wonderful. I
$100
really,
gift card to the #1.
right, and I,
electrocuted the pool picture.
right, oh, forks in the toaster, I couldn't even count how many forks that the teachers really drilled that point, like, don't stick a fork in the toaster, we have about 20 of those submissions.
Good lesson.
It is a good lesson, it is, but, yes, I am all for revamping it next year and not having, yes,
Okay, just my 2 cents.
and that's my, it did bother me, I'm not, yeah.
Maybe we could buy ice cream for some of the best, instead of
Oh,
$100
yeah.
we could.
Maybe this
Right,
way, yeah.
yeah.
Sure, something.
Everybody gets ice cream.
Yeah.
We can buy ice cream for that.
RMLD, like wall, you know, branded materials.
But I never really thought about this aspect before. Say I agree, I feel a little queasy about
Mhm.
what are we doing sitting around making 80% of the kids feel
Right.
like they didn't do a good job, like why are we doing that?
And they're so proud of their work.
Yeah,
It takes time and effort, right?
yeah, and then and some of them, like, I think parents helped with some of them too, so. There's like a very, I don't want to,
Yeah.
a very realistic depiction of something that I think is beyond.
But anyway, thanks for continuing this
Of course,
tradition,
yeah,
and I can't wait to see the submissions all. Last year they were on the cafeteria.
Yeah, they are.
Great, and
They're
I
amazing.
want the kids to know that their work is on
Of course,
display.
yeah, and even maybe I could work with the library, maybe they can, you know, keep them after, or some of them are, have more of a shelf life.
Thank you. I didn't mean to derail your presentation, but
I
Wonderful.
very much appreciate that.
I am forwarding your posts around Tuesday 6th.
Thanks.
Everything's great, thank you. So are we done?
One more.
Just one last, 2 minutes, minute and a half.
GM report.
Quick, so we fit a lot of things we normally put into that one. I just want to do 2 things. One, well, so we'll talk about this. We've talked a lot as a group individually about the development of this site. So the Reading town manager and I and our respective teams decided in order to get this, to keep this ball moving forward as opposed to it just being a concept, we decided together that we would put a milestone or a stake in the ground. You know, proverbial stake in the ground. We might actually put a real stake in the ground. But the point being is, so you guys know, we as RMLD need to do something physically with our 2 buildings. Not today, but particularly the operations center. And that there's been a lot of talk and discussion about what to do with the Ash Street campus. So we as RMLD are very supportive of doing something different because we need to, but we also think that there's a better way to optimize the space. We still need a place to have a home. Obviously, we're not saying we're walking away in any way, shape, or form. And the town has a strong interest in doing something as well. So we basically, the whole point of this is just to say that what's the stake in the ground? The stake in the ground is those last 2 bullets there are basically, let's try and start working now to get to 2029 and 2030, where in 2029, RMLD moves into a new building, whatever that building looks like. Again, we're not trying to architect it right now, but that's the move-in period, right? Second quarter of 2029. And then we'd have to obviously move out of this building. So that would allow time for the first quarter of 2030 for whatever this building and whatever behind us becomes. And there's a lot of work between now and then. But we basically, by 2030, we have transformed this campus into something different. So there's a lot more work to be done. There's a lot of economics. There's a whole bunch of pieces that have to go through here. But we said, what do we need to do this year, and what do we need to get done? You know, if we're going to do something, what is it going to be? I shouldn't say what is it going to be. What's the deadline? So that's our milestone. 2029, 2030. Those other intermediate steps, there's 100 intermediate steps, but those are some of the big pieces. One thing that we did agree to do, you know, we've been talking for the past year and a half with the town in particular to do something with Station 1. We keep looking at different ideas that would work, but what we agreed to do at a minimum is to have some outdoor event this summer here at RMLD as just a starting point. So we're both committed to have some external event. We'll give more details. It'll probably be in the July, August time frame, and that'll be a jointly sponsored event between the town of Reading and RMLD. So this is basically to say, hey, look, for the audience outside, I mean, you guys know this already, but we want to, there's a lot of steps to go through, but we want to make a milestone target, and that's 2030 transition, which is 7 years down the road. So time's going to go by fast, but we're going to get started now. Questions about that? There's a lot here, but just there's a target.
Good to have a target.
You got to start somewhere.
A lot of moving parts. I mean,
So
so if certain things happen, you have to be the move. If certain things don't, then it's not these moves. But again,
we're trying to.
Good to put up.
We're just trying to put a stake in the ground.
Yep.
The other element goes back to, okay, you know, all these neat things. How do you fund everything? And so I know that I don't know, but I was here, you guys were as well, but the director of finance did have a quick update last time we were together about different grants. And so just in terms of additional external funding, state level and federal funding. So we are seriously pursuing numerous grants. There's $43 million of grant submissions that was already put in place. Step 1. There's smart grid and grid modernization. There's grid resiliency. There's security grants. And then also, as we get a little further down the road, we anticipate grants for any solar projects such as Maple Meadows, et cetera. And we also, on the industrial side, as we kind of build out the R&D team or get it back up to partial strength, to start pursuing industrial solar projects where we actually own the assets because there's that investment tax credit that we now have access to. A lot of work to be done. An example, so 4 grants have been submitted already. January and earlier this week. The first one, it's been typically their two-step process. The smart grid, grid modernization one that we submitted that Ben drove with support from Hamid and his team. There were 326 submissions, 157 got made through the first gate. We were one of those 157. There's a list of 8 different things that you need to do before you do the next phase 2 grant submission. We only have one item check that we need to work on. So anyway, our submissions were very favorably approved. There's work to be done, but the point being is that for both the audience here and for the people that see this YouTube video later on from RCTV, we are aggressively pursuing grant opportunities that will fund the growth that we need to put in place. Those are the 2 big items from the general manager's report.
My question is, nowhere in here do I see the buildings behind us. Is that somewhere in here? Because that could be quite a lucrative.
232, you mean that little diagram?
Yeah, the background.
232.
Well, and plus the other ones that are in the back beyond that too.
Well, so in that diagram there, that little, so there's the 232, right behind it is the railroad track.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little on the right-hand side, there's a little bit of clip, but that has most of the campus. It has, except for just a little bit clipped off of the right end.
Yeah, but you got some other businesses that are over to the right in this picture, 230.
No, yeah, so you see my point here? There's only a few, so most of the businesses are in that area there. There's probably one more little building there. So the point taken, yeah, 232 is part of the whole plan. Yeah, absolutely part of the whole plan.
Because I know there was always discussion of connecting it to the businesses on the other side.
Oh, the railroad tracks.
No, as you go down there, you go the business to the right.
Yeah.
Beyond that, you can't get to is people, the area like.
There's a medical office building right behind us.
Medical office building, but you can also connect to the other side where Market Basket is, and those businesses.
Correct.
That's always been discussed. I don't see that, where that would be in any of this.
This isn't meant to be that full plan. This is just to say so, the whole campus would include that, would be part of the work that we'd have to do in the next 7 months in close cooperation with the town and whatever developer wants to come in and do it. All we're saying, as opposed to us just talking, like we as RMLD need to do some stuff with our facilities. And so now that we want to be a catalyst to help move this whole ball forward. Right now, we're not saying that we're the site developer. We're trying to be supportive. That's all we're saying. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. I mean,
I know there's many other steps.
there's a lot of stuff here. But what we're trying to do is say, look, we're gonna work very closely with the town of Reading to try and make this happen. Because they've been trying to make it happen, and there's been a whole bunch of reasons why things haven't happened, but we're committed and the town's committed. So we're gonna try and make something happen. That's all this is trying to say.
Yeah, the point to make, you say share Ashby campus concepts. I mean,
Yeah.
I would hope those concepts would consider all the properties that are back there.
Absolutely.
Not only 232, but all the ones to the right there too.
Well, to the right, yeah. Stop
The
the
right in that picture.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, I think there'll be a phase.
Open up the whole area.
Yeah.
Right.
Again, we know we're the electric utility, so we're supportive of it. We're not the site planning architect group. We want somebody else to take the lead, but we want to help drive it and help push it. And I think we're gonna work hand in hand with the town to try and make it happen. But again, we realize that our charge is reliable, low cost, non-carbon energy for our customers. And we need a place to operate out of. And there's interest in here, so we're trying to make stuff happen. That's all. This is not meant to be a comprehensive plan. There's each one of these bullets, there's a dozen items under each one of them.
Just trying to make the point that it should go beyond just what's in this picture.
Good. Oh, that's good. I think that's fair.
Okay. So our next meeting is Wednesday, March 15th at 7:30 in this room.
That's gonna be my question. Do you want to do this room again?
Sure.
Are we surrendering the conference room to,
No, we're not surrendering to anybody. We just have to get in, no.
you can rent it out?
No,
We're just waiting for the technology to come.
not yet. Please, not yet.
But this room works great.
Thank you.
And the public is certainly welcome in here.
7:30 is good.
Yep. They're all at 7:30. And they're booked all the way out to December. I'm not gonna read them off, but. Plan ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Good. Yep. Motion to adjourn, yeah. Move that the Board of Commissioners adjourn regular session.
Second.
Ms. Pacino, aye?
How about?
Let's go, Brian.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Greg, Sarah.
Thank you.
Jill,
Thank you.
Julie.
Thanks,
Good night.
Thank you, Karen. It'll follow you around. It's pretty cool. Yeah, you were pretty ginger.
Are we off?